New beginning. Nava Dijkstra. Friday morning. Noam lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. He is 45 years old today, and what did he actually do for himself during his entire life? Nothing. From the moment that he got married, he dedicated his whole life in building his successful business. Now, from the heights of his age, he is looking for the years that sped by, and the power of money that he accumulated can't bring back the springtime of his life, his youth. Disturbing reflection penetrated the iron partition where he hid his past. Is the race after his success was his way to build a good future and fix his miserable past through it? Is it possible at all to build something stable on a shaky foundation? He did not like digging his past. Memories of the past always manage to diminish his accomplishments and threatens his identity, so he always tried to push them back into their places, deep inside. The voice of his son, Shay, brought him back to the present. Like most mornings, Shay is angry with his mother that she didn't wake him up on time, and instead of putting him into his place and tell him that he is matured and responsible enough to wake up alone, she apologizes to him. It's been a long time that she is no longer his mother, but rather a close driver and a messenger for him. Mom, go buy a notebook for me. Mom, do me a favor. Pamper me with a nice takeaway. Even to dial the phone and order a pizza, he doesn't bother himself, but bother his mother. This caused Noam to be out of his mind, but every time he upbraids his wife, she would start a long and exhausting speech that can be summarized in 3 words. Fucking the mind. A month ago, it was the turn of Yaniv, their older son, who was in the army, to get angry with her that she was 5 minutes late in arriving at the train station. According to him, no mother would let her son, who is serving in a combat unit and comes once in a while, to wait for her. His mother didn't only agree with him, but 2 weeks ago, she arrived at the train station 1 hour earlier. And after their ungrateful behavior, still, all she has in mind is her children. She has no aspirations for herself. She lived for their sake and expects that he, her husband, will also live for their sake. Is he not doing enough for them? Did he not sacrifice the most beautiful years of his life in raising them? What about himself? Is his time to enjoy life didn't come yet? If he can only take a knapsack and a stick and go somewhere to live from time to time, to feel the present. He hears the slamming of the door closing his dreams. She is taking Shay to school. Noam hurriedly got out of bed, so he would be able to escape before she gets back. This way, he would be spared from the Friday routine conversation about the children, about being more sensitive, more understanding, more a father, and such kind of craps. He gives up the morning shower, picks up the car keys, opens the door, and here she is, his wife, standing in front of him. You came back so fast. He reveals the intention of his escape without noticing. The neighbor took him to school. She said, "Do you know that according to the Bible, a slave was freed after 7 years? Not with your cynicism again." She says, "I have been doing this for years, and you are not yet tired of always upbraiding me about it. When are you going to stop?" "Until you will understand." "But why does it bother you that I'm giving him a lift, if it doesn't bother me?" "Honestly, I really enjoy it. It's a great opportunity to spend precious moments with him and talk to him whatever I want without having to escape from me. Don't manipulate me. You're just a weak woman who is now looking for rationalization for something that you know it is wrong. This is a mother's emotion. A loving mother doesn't spoil her children, but knows how to set them boundaries, to teach them that just as there are rights at home, there are also obligations. Your mother was not exactly a model. So where do you get this knowledge looking back? I guess there is something in her after all. The fact that I succeeded in life. He says quietly, if you succeeded in life, so how come that your relationships with your children look like this? Success is not only measured by the amount of money in the bank, rather in a few criteria. And one of them is the relationship with your family. And here, you failed big time. Because your indulgence makes me bad, and about the money, without it, maybe you can see your failure with the kids better. She gives him a helpless look. How he hates this look. A look that he interprets as a misery that is designed to give him a feeling of compunction. He has no patience to this. He moved from the doorstep and walks towards his car. Are you going? She asks. No, I'm staying here to continue the argument. It's not an argument. Sounds like that when you love to argue, he mutters to himself, whether his words are intended for her ears. He took off the driveway in a reverse. His wife is still standing at the doorstep, giving him a pitiful look. The same look that he hated so much, a look that locks him up in this faltering relationship. He and his wife are not a couple anymore for a long time. They argue about everything. He thought that as the years pass by, the gaps between them will be reduced, but to his surprise, they expanded from year to year, as if they are both traveling in the same road. It's just that one is southbound, and the other is northbound, and after 20 years, he is 1,000 miles ahead of her. He couldn't even recognize the crossroad where they met for the first time, and not even the woman that he fell in love with. Even their children became a boulder of controversy between them. He thinks that his children are spoiled. She claims that they are good kids. He is angry that she is their driver. She is happy for it. He sees education as secondary. She sees it as a major. He thinks that they should take responsibility for their lives, and she thinks that it's her responsibility. She wants sex with him. He prefers others. For him, she already turned into an object a long time ago. Just like the accessory that was stuck in the corner of the room, a designed sculpture that they bought together during their honeymoon in Paris, and it's time to throw it, not because it's not beautiful or it's old, but because he has been used to it to boredom. He had already made a decision long time ago. To separate, to leave, to go, to run away, to get a divorce, anything that will take him far away from this life. His presence at home is unnecessary anyway. No one would feel that he left. Maybe they will even be happy to hear his decision. Despite encouraging thoughts, he can't find the courage to stand up and walk away. Something is stopping him, and he doesn't know what. What causes a man to stay buried in his place, and freezes himself in chasing his fate, his decision? He collects the letters from the mailbox. 2 letters, one from the bank and the other is from Canada. Canada. He wonders, and reconstructs his actions in the past few days, while tearing the envelope. A letter in Hebrew. Somebody sent him a letter in Hebrew, in handwriting. Hello Noam, my name is Jonathan, and I'm writing to you to ask for your forgiveness, though I didn't hurt you directly. I did not lift a finger either in order to help you. Unfortunately, there is no shortcut in this story, and I need to start from the beginning. My life began in a big promise. I had great parents who loved each other and raised me with lots of love. Life seemed good and promising to me, until the war broke and took my father, leaving me and my mother alone. My mother was so busy with her broken heart, and she didn't find the strength to deal with my pain. Later, I found out that her broken heart due to her dependence is not less than her pain. She just couldn't live alone. 2 years later, when I was 8, my mother met another man, and fell in love with him head over heels. She became his slave. She would work from morning to evening, to give him her money, the same money that he would lose in playing poker with his friends. He would go out every night and return in the morning, but she never complained. She was contented being a wife on a paper. This arrangement in which my mother is working all day, and her husband would lose her money in playing poker brought us to a hand-to-mouth existence. There were times that I didn't have anything to eat, but my mother didn't care about me. She only lives for the sake of her husband. There were also beatings, but I thought that I deserved it, because the beatings always come with explanations. That as a child I thought that they are justified. For example, there was one time that I tried to get from the food that my mother set aside for her husband, and both of them didn't just got angry and beat me, but they explained to me that a child at my age needs to take part in the expenses of the house, and they sent me to work at the store in the neighborhood. Of course, my stepfather took the small amount of money that I earned. I think that at the same time, I lost my mother for the first time. Suddenly I was anybody's child. "Hey, I thought you were gone." His wife's voice detached him from the life of the stranger, that for a while became a part of him. "What are you reading?" He looked at her as if he was daydreaming. Something in his heart asked to get a hug from her, to get a piece of little love from her, like those that she unlimitedly lavishes to her children, their children. She kept standing next to the car. She was sure that he stayed outside for her. "Are you coming in?" she asked after a while. He took his eyes away from her and stared at the windshield. She went back inside the house. He continues to read. Suddenly I realized that I didn't only lose my father, but also my mother. She had forgotten me. Her life is focused only to her husband. She lives for his sake. He got the best food from her while I went to sleep hungry. Age 11 was the turning point in my life. My aunt, my father's sister, took me to live with her. I discovered that for 3 years she and her husband conducted a war against my mother, and demanded to get an adoption rights on me. In the end, they paid my mother's husband some amount of money, and I started a new life from that day on. I never saw my mother. At first, every knock at the door, I would run to open in the hope that it was my mother. I used to go to school and look for her with my eyes. During birthdays, I waited for her phone call, but she never arrived nor called. When I reached the age of 13, I was sure that God will surprise me and would bring my mother to the bar mitzvah party. But she didn't arrive. I was sure that something happened to her. 2 days after the bar mitzvah, without telling my aunt, I headed to her house and stood on the road, waiting for her to come out of the house. A few hours later I saw her coming out with a boy who was about 2 years old. "That's how I came to know you," acquaintance that started with envy and hatred. I envied and hated you that you won my mother, her love, things that I didn't get. I kept coming and tracking your life, and one day, when I was standing right next to the gate of your house, I heard you crying so loud, begging your mother to stop beating you. I realized that your life is the exact replica of the life that I had. I cried as if I was the one who was getting the blows. I pity on you so much. Noam laid his head on the steering wheel and felt how the barrier of years had exploded in one moment. He cried like a little kid. The last time that he cried was at the age of 12. In one day, he decided that no one will ever beat him again. His mother raised her hands to beat him, and he grabbed her arms tightly and held her back. Her face wore a shocking expression that suddenly changed to a terrible fear. The beating episode was over, and so with the minimal relationship that was left between him and his mother. Noam wiped his tears and continued to read. I followed your life for years. I didn't come to see my mother anymore, rather you. I wanted to come and talk to you so many times, but something was stopping me, some kind of an obscure feeling. I remember one of the most exciting and traumatic encounters with you. I was a student and I sat down to eat at the restaurant of the university. Suddenly I saw you coming to my table and cleared up the dirty dishes. I thought that there's no way you don't have an aunt or someone to save you. Just as they saved me, I gave you a big tip, and you asked me to put it in the joint cash box. I stood up, clung to you, and stuck the money into your pocket, while I whispered to you not to share it with anyone. Just after I left the restaurant, I realized that I took a big risk, that you might think that I'm harassing you sexually. So many times that I wanted to shake your hand and tell you that you're not alone, that you have a brother, but you looked so fragile. I knew that you were in an ongoing trauma, and did not want to put you to another trauma. Looking back, this is something that I will regret all my life. Noam repeated the lines again and again, couldn't believe on what he read. He has a half-brother. He has a brother. He leaned his whole body on the back of the chair, closed his eyes tightly, feeling the tears that are squeezed from them. Suddenly, he turned to be a 15-year-old teenage boy who works as a piccolo in a restaurant and gets tips from the same stranger. Tips that signified the value of love that he longed for, which is much more than the value of money. But why the hell he did not say a word? Why the hell he didn't help him? Why didn't he tell him that they are brothers? And why the hell he suddenly disappeared and stopped coming to the restaurant? Noam received the answer. When I graduated in the university, I found a job in Canada. I went to the restaurant with the decision that before going to Canada, I'm going to tell you that I'm your brother. But you don't work there anymore. I went to your house and saw the notice of our mother's obituary. I understood that it was not the time for confession. It's interesting, by the way, that I did not feel any pain, probably because for me, she is already dead a long time ago. I promised myself that at the first opportunity, I'll tell you about our family bond, and that was what I did. In my first visit to the country, I came to your house. Your father opened the door for me. It's needless to say that he did not recognize me and didn't know where I can find you. Noam smiled. It's a memory that finally brings a smile to his face. How strange, but after the death of his mother, a new runway was opened for him, the way to success. He opened a small car rental agency at the central bus station. His wife, Ruth, was working at a real estate office close to him. They became friends when he goes to drink coffee in her office, and she drinks in his office once in a while. One time, she told him about an interesting and worthwhile deal. A piece of land, in the industrial area, that belonged to a lonely old man. When he asked her jokingly what she wants in return, she said back, quote, "A wedding." After the deal was closed, they began the first step to the wedding, and turned from friends to couples. It's interesting that only now he thinks that his wife was the one who gave him the springboard. The acquisition of the plot in the industrial area put money into his pocket, that put him into the map of auto business. Finally, he was able to think about the past in positive connotations. A strange feeling passed through him, yearning to give love to the woman who is close to his heart, to his wife. He read the last line in the letter: "I do not know what's going on with you now. I really hope that you are in a good place, that you will forgive me, and will accept me as part of your family. With much love, Brother Jonathan." Noam folded the letter, and put it in the pocket of his shirt, close to his heart. "You did a lot for me, more than you ever know. I'll accept you in my family, after I will make sure that my family will agree to accept me." Noam felt some sort of catharsis. He suddenly realized that those days of thinking about the satiation and weariness of his life were the results of the burden of the past that weighed on him and threatened to shatter his life, like a self-destructive mechanism. He thanked Jonathan for the letter that brought him back to his past. As if Jonathan took his hand and led him to his parents' house, to the cold corner of his life. Going through it with Jonathan was easier. Noam knew that there will still be more skeletons that will come and arise from his past, but he promised himself to deal with it in due time. For now, the present is much more important. He had to take his family back to his lap, and bring back the romance into his life with his wife. He got out of his car and entered the house. He saw his wife cooking in the kitchen. He leaned against the white marble next to her and looked at her, to the woman that half an hour ago he thought that she was the most boring woman in the world. "Has something happened?" she asked. He handed her the letter. She wiped her hands, took the letter, and went to read it in the living room. He sat next to her, saw her giving him a loving and a supporting gaze once in a while. "I had no idea," she said when she finished reading the letter. Her face was wet with tears. She hugged him. "For years, I am lost within my work, dedicating my life to work and getting far from my family. For me, a normal family was the same pattern that I knew and remembered from my childhood. At the age of 10, I already found myself working for a living. This is the reason of my strictness with the children, that I expected them to help in the household tasks. I still think that they should and can contribute a little, only that now I also realize that I can't play the role of a side critic and an observer. I need to be a partner in the task of educating them. I must learn to let go of this thing that I thought it was a family, and embrace my family." Noam found himself sitting in front of his wife, and allows himself to open the door of his past widely, the same door that his brother Jonathan slightly opened for him. A pigeon stood on the windowsill, and he approached it naturally, put his hand on the windowsill, and the pigeon settled on his arm. At 16, I used to raise pigeons in the house. He smiled grimly when he thought that his son Shay, who is now 16 years old, just like him, didn't win the hug of a father, his hug. Oh, how he wanted to hug his children, to give them what he had not received from his father. "We lost a lot," he said to his wife. "So we better fill in the blanks," she said, and pulled him into the bedroom. He spent half a day of his birthday in bed with his wife. The phone rang. It was Yaniv, the soldier's son, reminding his mother that he is waiting for her at the train station. She kisses her husband and tells her son that she is busy, and he will have to come on his own. Noam took the phone from her. "How can you let a combat soldier to ride in a bus?" He scolded her jokingly, and informed his son that he is on his way. He drove off to the train station, excited to see his son, as if he hadn't seen him for many years. As if the moment he will be connected to the child within him, only then that he will succeed to be a father. The window of the car was opened, and he felt the caress of the fresh and light wind on his face, shaking off him the heavy burden that accompanied him for years. You can read more stories by the author Nava Dijkstra in Google Books.